All right, we are live. NFL Week 14 preview every Friday. Well, last week was an exception because of Thanksgiving, but every Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern, we are live for the weekly preview. If you are watching after the fact, I recommend skipping. Oh, sorry about that, hit the mic. I recommend skipping forward to probably the 1.5 2-minute mark. Per usual, I kind of just wait for a couple people to join the stream, and I also tweet out the link. So again, if you are watching this after the fact, I just recommend go ahead and fast forward to, we'll say, 1.5 mark. So let me just go ahead and tweet the link out, and then we will dive into the action. What is up, Salty Wings? What's up, T Lightning? How are we doing? What's up, AK member chat? How we doing? Love your content so much. Appreciate it. And I am, like I said, I'm just tweeting the link out. I do have one thing to share here before we really dive into this. Let me just go ahead and tweet out NFL Week 14 preview, and let's go ahead and tweet that puppy out. All right, we are good. All right, so the thing that I actually have to say is, I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is a little bit of a flu game. I have been sick this week. I'm good. I'm not like sick, but I've had like a runny nose, the head cold type thing. Now I could still go like run a couple miles, do like 100 push-ups, 100 body weight squats, that type of thing. But I've had a little bit of a little like a little sniffle. So it's kind of like a flu game. If guys can play with like broken body parts, I can definitely tough through an hour preview with the sniffles. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Let's go ahead and dive in. AK, you're gonna be all right. The Packers are gonna make the playoffs. It's gonna be good. But the first game that we have to preview this week, guys, it is one of the best games potentially of the year, some might say. It's an AFC South clash. It is Jags-Titans. Look, the combined records for these games, between the teams in these games, are 5-19. The Jags are without Trevor Lawrence, of course, after what happened last week. Trevor was injured. I'll just kind of leave it at that. And Mac Jones is starting, and I think this is about as open as to saying that, well, I mean, Trevor was injured, so that's a little different, but it's kind of like, hey, like, our season's done. Our head coach is going to be fired at season's end, and that is, that's how I feel about the Jags. It's been an unfortunate year for Jacksonville. I was hoping they would take a step up. Unfortunately, they didn't. And it's also been a really disappointing year for the Titans. Although I will say positively about the Titans, I think Will Levis has certainly flashed at times. And I think Will Levis is a decent player in the sense of, like, he gives you something to look forward to. And Brian Thomas Jr. is a great player for the Jags. He's, without a doubt, their brightest spot that they have right now. And I will say Nick Westbrook-Akine has been a bit of a touchdown monster recently. But the reality is, when I look at this game, unless the Jags can really just get home, like nearly, not every play, but just more often than usual, which is possible against the Titans offensive line, I don't trust Mac Jones to lead a game. I don't trust the Jags to win against the Titans. I think the Titans are a team, and this also applies to the Jags, by the way, more so when they have Trevor, but I really think the Titans are a lot better than what the record shows. I have said before, I think they are a lot more talented than a 3-9 team, at least based off of the talent they have on their roster. And Will Levis every week puts tape out where you can look at and say that, we have a quarterback, not for the future, of course, like for, the next 5 years, but there's multiple throws every week where Will Levis looks like a player that the Titans shouldn't have to look at the 2025 quarterback class. So ultimately, backup quarterback. Hopefully the Titans offensive line can, kind of survive. That's been a big thing. I've been really critical of Nicholas Petit-Frere, but I am going to go with the Titans to win this game. And I am curious to hear where the chat stands on this. But I think the Titans are going to win. All right, let's see. We've had a few calls go our way, and then we're the Patriots. Let's see here. Jordan 2.0. Absolutely. It is a flu game 100%. But we'll be good. And AK, my guy, hopefully you're doing all right after yesterday. Skull, greetings from Germany. What's up, man? That's awesome. That is actually really, really humbling. That's awesome, by the way. But we have another killer game this week. We have Saints-Giants. And again, the combined records here between these teams, 6-18. This is one of the games that's going to be played in the 2024 NFL regular season. And what I'll say here between these two teams, I do want to just go ahead and just tell you guys a couple statistics that I had written down on my notes. Both rushing defenses have not been great recently, especially the Saints. They allowed 156 yards on the ground last week to the Rams. They allowed 181 yards on the ground a couple of games before that to the Falcons. And the Giants are, well, they're all around a pretty bad football team. I mean, I don't think you, at least in their case, I don't think you accidentally stumble into a 2-10 record. And the Giants have allowed at least 100 yards rushing in every game dating all the way back to week 5. And for me, it's going to boil down to, okay, which team can get the ground game established early? And Dexter Lawrence is unfortunately done for the year. So I don't have a lot of hopes for this game for the Giants. I think they are pretty openly tanking. And obviously that's, frowned upon in the NFL as, you're not supposed to tank. But guys, I mean, when you look at this roster, what do you think that this team is going to be competitive? Do you think they're going to finish 7-10? Do you think they're going to win the last 5 games? I don't. I don't think this roster is good to begin with. I think Joe Shane is not a good general manager. There's been a lot of decisions. Let me back that up. There's been a lot of draft decisions that they've made that haven't panned out. I liked the process for a lot of them. There were some that I didn't like the process on. We, of course, did a whole video on that last week. But the Giants are just all around not a great team, and it shows every single week. So I don't think the Giants are going to win this game. Give me the Saints in this one. Saints are favored by 4.5. I wouldn't be surprised if they win by double digits. And the Saints aren't a good team either, which is the crazy thing there. But give me Darren Rizzi, give me the interim coach, give me the run game, especially with Dexter Lawrence out. The Giants are not a good team, man. So give me the Saints in this one. I'm curious where do you guys stand on this? And Mr. Savage 77 says we have this game. Michael, who is, by the way, a big supporter of the channel. He's always repping. Appreciate it. He says Daniel Jones was never the problem. He was a problem being asked to solve other problems. I think that's very fair. Giants drafting top 5. To be honest, I'd be surprised if they're not top 3. Do I have Sanders or Ward going to the Giants? I would probably say Ward at this point. Dexter Lawrence is the new Joe Thomas. Unfortunate comparison. I don't entirely disagree, though. It's kind of sad the way that has worked out. Justin Ziegler, big super chat, appreciate it. And Justin says, next offseason for the Jets will be interesting. Got to make a decision with Rodgers, a new potential quarterback, new coach, GM, offensive line decisions, and the core of that team now in the 2022 draft class becomes eligible with bad ownership. And Justin, all of those points are valid, and there's going to be a lot of Jets content coming out soon. So there's definitely going to be an entire video on what you just discussed. It's going to go back several years just with the Jets, because it's not just let's trade for Aaron Rodgers and try and save everything. It was a lot of things before that. And that actually is a good segue into this next game. So Justin, appropriately timed super chat, by the way. But no, the Jets are a disaster right now. And there is actually several players that the Jets have out in this game, and I want to go ahead and confirm. And by the way, just quickly before we dive into this, if you guys are enjoying, please like the stream. Helps tremendously. Right now we're at 21. Let's go ahead and get up to 50. Appreciate everyone being in here. But Justin, there will absolutely be an entire video on that, and I can't wait to break it all down. But the Jets are, you're right, it's going to be interesting, and the situation is, I wouldn't exactly say good, because there's a lot of financial ramifications of Aaron Rodgers. I'll just leave it at that. But here we go. All right. Per Adam Schefter, Jets head coach Jeff Ulbrich announced Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner will be listed as doubtful against the Dolphins, and CJ Mosley also placed on IR due to a herniated disc in his neck. Guys, I mean, do you look at this Jets team and think, you know what? They're going to go into Miami, especially a Miami team that, look, I know Miami can't play in the cold, and that people say they're soft and everything, and I get that. The narrative, there's a lot of times where narratives don't exactly add up to what reality is. I think some narratives are just a little ridiculous with how they start and then how they kind of get carried on. This is more of a fact than a narrative, unfortunately, for the Dolphins. But what I will say is the Dolphins season, I mean, their schedule is not hard from here on out. They play the Jets at Houston, home against San Francisco, at Cleveland, and then at the Jets. Maybe the at Cleveland at the Jets part, given that it's going to be in Cleveland and New York in December and January, may be hard, but they can win all 5 of those games. As far as I'm concerned, the Dolphins' playoff chances, while slim, yes, while slim, they're still alive. So when I look at the Dolphins right now, and when I look at the Jets, I mean, guys, the Jets are, by every definition, a team that is just, they are mentally checked out. They are just not a fun team to watch at all. And if you watched the Jets last week, they were up 21-7 against the Seahawks. They throw a pick 6, and after that, it was over. And they put up 14 points in the first quarter offensively, and they had a kickoff return for a touchdown from Kene Nwangwu, but after that, it was done. I mean, they didn't put up a point the rest of the game. And they're not a good team. They're not a good team, and I am very much under the belief that the Dolphins are going to win this game. I would imagine everybody else feels the same way. Curious to see where you guys stand, but I don't see any way the Dolphins lose this game, especially, again, per Adam Schefter, with Brees and Sauce listed as doubtful, and also CJ Mosley on IR. The Jets at this point are playing for a lot of the names on the back of their jersey rather than the front of their jersey, and they're not a good team at this point, man. So I'm going Dolphins in this one. And and to be honest, the 6-point spread is I feel like that could be. I mean, I think the Dolphins could win this game by double digits, like rather easily. Let's see here. Daniel Summers, I miss Kene Nwangwu. I do too. Appreciate the members in the chat, by the way. AK Daniel, appreciate the members. Like I said, we did create memberships recently, so the first member-only chat will be pretty soon. Oh, rats, hold on. Sorry, chair fell. I can say that the Jets are cooked. They are cooked. It's an unfortunate season the way just everything transpired. But I would be pretty surprised if the Dolphins don't win this game and ultimately cover, for that matter. Let's keep it going here. All right. Let's go. Eagles, Panthers. Sorry, I had that the wrong way. Let's go Panthers, Eagles. So, here is the frustrating part for the Panthers. Because, look, the Carolina right now, they are looking like a much better team. Carolina is... I'm not really, like, worried that they're losing games, because Carolina is... They weren't expected to win many games this year. I was hoping they could go, like, 7-10, maybe 8-9 with the step from Bryce. And, you know, the Bryce Young season started as low as it could possibly get, but, you know, we're taking steps. Like, we are on the way up. Unfortunately for the Panthers, I don't think this game favors them at all. And I think this is the definition of just a brutal game, just for them. And they've had a couple of good weeks. They've had 4 solid games in a row. They've went 2-2 in their last 4 games with wins over the Saints and Giants. They nearly beat the Chiefs, and I know there's a lot of Panthers fans that when they watch this back after the stream, that they will say that they should have won last week, and I completely understand where they're coming from, and I get it. But, you know, beating the Bucs at home, no disrespect intended, of course, is a lot different than going into Philly and a team that is red hot in the Philadelphia Eagles and going to win in the Link on the road in December. 12.5 points is a lot. That's a lot for a team in the Panthers that has been playing pretty well. So I think I would definitely take the Panthers to cover this game. But when you look at the Eagles and why or even earlier in the year when they were 2-2 especially after that Bucs game, they lost 33-16. I know they had several starters out in that game, including AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Lane Johnson. When they were 2-2, I didn't really waver my faith in the Eagles' talent on the roster. I had a lot of concerns with Nick Sirianni. I still kind of do, for that matter, but I never was out on the Eagles roster itself. And since they're bye, they routed off 8 straight wins, and I would be shocked if it's not 9 straight wins. So I do think the Eagles are going to win this one, but I do think the Panthers cover. And I would be curious to see where you guys stand on that. But I do think the Panthers are going to cover. And if I had to predict the score, I think it'd be something along the lines of 27-17, maybe 31-21. I think it's going to be a better game than what Vegas thinks with a 12.5 point spread, because a 12.5 point spread's a lot. But I think think the Panthers are going to cover. New member of the chat. Appreciate it, Sam. Appreciate it. And Sam says, I saw where he said, Skull Baby, love the channel. Appreciate it. And we'll get to I don't rep the Vikings a whole lot on the channel. But I do have the sweatshirt on today. So, Skull, absolutely. We'll get to the Vikings game in a minute. But let's see here. Panthers have more upside than the Vikings. Doctor, that is from Doctor. He is always in my DMs on Twitter. He doesn't follow me on Twitter. He just always constantly trolls me. He tells me the Vikings suck regularly. What else does he say? He says the Vikings stink. He tells me just anything negative about the Vikings. He tells me all the time. So it's, the Panthers have an upside. We're just changing it from Twitter to the YouTube live today. But let's keep it going here. All right, I got the Unreal. Yeah, the Unreal. So it is an Unreal sweatshirt, but like I'll be honest, like I still wear a lot of stuff from like 6-7 years ago. You buy stuff once and then I'm still wearing it like 5, 6, 7 years. It was a rare like treat for myself. But it is nice and I do recommend. But yes, it is Unreal and like I do recommend. But we have Raiders, Bucs are up. The Raiders looked a lot better with Aiden O'Connell. I think everybody would agree, especially after last week, that Aiden O'Connell should have been starting the entire time. And my frustration with the Raiders with this year was the fact that they kept starting Gardner Minshew and were fine with the results. And I mean, Gardner Minshew is not a starting caliber NFL quarterback, at least a long-term starting caliber quarterback. And I think everybody would also agree with that. But they're 6.5-point dogs on the road against the Bucs. The Raiders, again, they looked really good last week, and I know the end of the game was it was something. It was on Black Friday. I know a lot of people probably have comments with how that game ended last week, especially given that they lost to the Chiefs. I'll just kind of leave it at that. But the thing with the Bucs is, and why I'm going to choose Tampa to win this game, although I do think the Raiders keep it close, is what I will say is the Bucs season is not exactly on the line, but kind of on the line. And they're 6-6. And what also has to be factored in with the Bucs is they have a really, really difficult game against the Chargers next week in LA, which I probably think they're going to lose, which makes this week a must win. Now, obviously you can only focus on the next 60 minutes of football right in front of you. But what I would also say is the Bucs were swept earlier this year by the Falcons, and they are also 6-6. So Tampa needs to win. Like they need to win. They need Atlanta to lose for them to go up in the division race. Tampa can't afford to trip up on a game with a 2-10 team. And Aiden O'Connell's a young quarterback. I think Todd Bowles is a great defensive mind. And I think Tampa will win this game. I think it's going to be pretty close. But ultimately, I think Tampa will win. So I think it's going to be pretty close. I think it'll be around 23-20. But I'm curious where you guys stand on that. And Amstel says Sanders to Bowers. That would be nice. Shedeur Sanders, by the way, let's go ahead and quickly have that conversation. Shedeur Sanders talking about going to the Raiders as much as he is, I think is pretty cool because I feel like there's not a lot of times where you have that much passion from a draft prospect about going to a specific team. So I think it's cool, especially because the Raiders have been a bad franchise for years. Not just like, a bad season or two, like decades now. So I would really, it'd be nice if the Raiders could turn it around and draft a franchise quarterback in the first round. And obviously if they lose this game, that helps them out more in the long run because they would have a better chance at getting that player. So like I said, I think the Bucs win, but I think it'll be close. I think the Raiders will cover the 6.5-point spread. All right. And RM56 says it exactly. Sanders posted on his Insta him driving near Allegiant Stadium. That was what I was referring to. And it's pretty cool that that Shedeur is that adamant about potentially going to Las Vegas. All right, here we go. We have Browns Steelers and Browns. This is just going to be a great AFC North game. There's been a lot of chirping on Twitter, especially between George Pickens and Greg Newsome. George Pickens said something to the effect of he doesn't know who Greg Newsome is. And then Greg Newsome posted an Instagram DM from George Pickens from back in 2019 about George replying to something on a story. This is their second game in 3 weeks. They, of course, played on Thursday night a couple weeks ago in the snow game. I'm kind of surprised that Cleveland is 6.5-point dogs. I thought it'd be like more 4 points, but I digress. This should be a really good game. AFC North football, I will say, if you ever hear the cliche phrase of we're going to throw the records out, it applies to this division more than any other division of football, because these teams they know each other. I mean, obviously every division team knows each other well, but these teams just every single year, they play each other tight. They know it's going to go down to the wire. But with the Steelers at 9-3, potential to get double digits, potential to have 2 full games with the Ravens, and with the Browns also on a short week, given that they played in Denver on Monday night, a lot of travel, I am going to choose the Steelers to win, but I think this is going to be a really, really good close game. Jameis is going to be, he's going to be just rearing to bounce back after Monday night, and Jameis's words said that he hopes the Lord delivers him from pick sixes. I love Jameis, by the way. He is one of my favorite players to watch. This is going to be a very interesting game. I think it's going to be potentially the most must-watch 1 o'clock game. But I am going to go with Steelers to win this game. I think it's going to be real close. And I'm actually going to put a poll up here, and I am curious who you guys have winning. Just straight up who you guys have winning this game. It's going to be a lot closer than what people realize. So let's go ahead and just put the poll out, and you guys can go ahead and vote. But like I said, I'm going to go with the Steelers to win. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be maybe 27-24, and I can't wait for Browns-Steelers, man. I love watching both of these teams play, and I can't wait. And Justin, appreciate the member. Let's go. And there was finally caught a live stream. Let's go. What's up, Whispery? How we doing? Winston will throw for 600. 30 for 30 peak. Yeah, Jameis is he's an awesome player. Like, he's so fun to watch. I can't vote against my GOAT, Jameis. I get it. Jameis is awesome. I love watching him play. Pickens was just downgraded to questionable. I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play. Who's going to throw for more yards? I would say definitely Jameis. For better or worse, I would say definitely Jameis. I mean, people forget that Jameis, like, obviously everybody knows about the 30-30 season, but Jameis led the league in passing yards. Like, Jameis is a 5,000-yard passer. So, I'm a big Jameis guy. And let's go ahead and go to the next game, which features my Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins returning to US Bank. Now, like I said, I don't rep the Vikings too much on the channel. I am today. I got the sweatshirt on, and the Vikings are favored by 5.5 points. They're 10-2. They are coming off of one of the craziest games, one of the craziest wins last week against the Cardinals. They were down 19-6. Nearly 3 quarters in, there was about 4 minutes left in the third. They were down double digits. They came back and win 23-22. And that was a stressful game. I'll say that. Whereas on the other side, the Falcons are coming off of a loss in which Kirk Cousins threw 4 interceptions, and they lost 17-13. And I mean, the defense played well. The Falcons defense, despite not being all that good, they played really well last week. And the Falcons defense, credit where it's due, they allowed 187 total yards of opposing offense. The Falcons should have won last week against the Chargers. They moved the ball up and down the field against a good defense. But Kirk threw a terrible red zone interception. He threw a pick six that I thought he was extremely late on, and they lost 17-13. And that was off their bye week. And the Falcons are now 0-3 in their last 3 games. And a little spoiler, I have a video coming out on the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow. So definitely be on the lookout for that. 10 a.m. release, Eastern time. But, guys, I worry about the Falcons being able to run the ball against the Vikings defense. The Vikings running defense is one of the best in the league. And to give you an idea of where they are in rushing defense rankings, they are second in opposing attempts against, which means teams are flat out not trying to run the ball against them because they know they're not going to get a lot of yards against them, so they're doing anything else. They are first in rushing yards against, they are first in rushing touchdowns against, and they're third in yards per carry against. They are going to do everything they can to force Kirk Cousins to beat them in his return. And when you throw in Flores' exotic blitz, when you throw in everything, I think the Vikings are going to win this game. 5.5 points for the Vikings is a lot. The Vikings, have been a little frustrating offensively at times over the past couple of weeks. The run game has particularly been frustrating. They've only ran for 100 yards once in the past 3 games. And the Vikings at times, they definitely scare me. Just they Viking games up and they definitely scare me. I'll just kind of put it like that. But it is also worth noting that Stephon Gilmore is out and Fabian Moreau will step up in his place. And that is definitely noteworthy with Drake London and with Kirk Cousins, because Kirk's going to probably try and attack the weak link. We'll see how that plays out. But Kirk Cousins returning, I am going to take the Vikings to win. And Buccaneers fans will absolutely be rooting for the Vikings in this game. And I think the Vikings are going to deliver and improve to 11-2. All right. Kirk Cousins' last game in the... Wait, what is this? Kirk Cousins. How is Jefferson sinking my fantasy team? He's fine. He'll be good. Penix time. We'll just... Like I said, we discuss all of that tomorrow in a video releasing tomorrow. Let's see here. The Vikings better beat the Falcons. It's from a Saints fan. I give you my word that they will try their best. Let's see here. Vikings rushing defense versus Eagles rushing offense. Hopefully we get it in the playoffs. All right. Let's see here. Don't call it glaze, but you pretty much perfectly predicted the implications of the Penix Jr. pick could be. Cousins does bad. Scream for MPJ. It was always, it's not, I appreciate that, by the way. Because usually I hear like how wrong I am about takes, and everybody's wrong at times. Like nobody's perfect, but no, it's, we discuss all of it tomorrow. You're going to like the video. It just breaks everything down. The Falcons' future scares me like a lot, and we'll break it down all tomorrow. Let's see here. Super chat from Taylor, perfectly timed. Just joined Steelers yet, also division title. We did discuss the Steelers game. I think the Steelers are going to win. Appreciate the super chat, Taylor. And I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be, Taylor, you know, as a Steelers fan, that AFC North games are as close as they get almost every time. They are an extremely fun division to watch. I don't care what teams are playing. AFC North football is extremely fun to watch. And I think the Steelers are going to win. I think it's definitely going to be a great game. Close game, back and forth. Jameis versus Russ in 2024 is going to be must-see TV. I'm looking forward to it, but I do think the Steelers are going to win. All right, so now we have an interesting game here. We have a really interesting game here because this is the first game without Matt Eberflus, and this is the first game in Bears franchise history after they have fired a head coach midseason. The Bears have been around since like 1919. First time in their history, they have fired a head coach midseason. And that's, we'll see how this plays out. Now, the 49ers, as we know, they have went through a lot this year as a team. They are 5-7. The 49ers, for everybody that wants to talk about, and I know the 49ers, their fan base gets it a lot just because like they're going to hear, we've went to 5 or 4 NFC championship games in the past 5 years. They're naturally going to be loud. I would be too if I were a 49ers fan. So a lot of people are liking the fact that the 49ers are having a down year on the field, and I get it. But I think the 49ers are just, they're mentally checked out, and I don't blame them. And we did a video on this yesterday. They've had a lot of things happen. Of course, Ricky Pearsall was shot before the season started. Thankfully, he's still with us. Charvarius Ward, unfortunately, had a child pass away, which is obviously a tremendous impact and a tragedy. And Trent Williams recently and his wife announced that they had a stillborn. Thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to both families. But it's a tremendous impact off the field. When you have that happen, how do you actually say, all right, Trent, go defend Montez Sweat this week. Good luck, buddy. How do you actually say that? And you can't. So I think the Bears are going to win. The 49ers have just had an all-around just insane season. And personally, I would imagine that most 49ers players and fans kind of just can't wait for it to end. I know their season is technically still alive. With the amount of injuries they had, I don't think they're going to do anything this year. I think they're going to finish probably at best 7-10. But this could be a big game for the Bears. They have extra couple of days off. They last played on Thanksgiving, of course. That was just a disaster with how that game ended. Everybody, of course, knows that. The Bears went from 4-2 to 4-8, and I think with the interim head coach, I think they are going to win on the road. So I will take the underdog here, and I think the Bears are going to win. And this is super chat from Daniel. He says Eagles going to get the NFC #1 seed. Go Birds! All right, go Birds, go Birds. So let's see here. 500 with 5 games left. Guess he gets a tie. If TB wins 4 out of the last 5 games, we should keep him. Oh, that's a spicy take. That would be very Bears. That would be very, very Bears. That would be very, very Bears to do that. Let's see here. 49ers have collapsed. It's just been a long year for the 49ers. It's just been a long, long year. But Daniel, appreciate the super chat, and I will say that whenever I do see somebody in public wearing like an Eagles hat, Eagles shirt, and I recommend doing this. It's kind of fun. Just yell "Go Birds!" and every time you get a response, you get a look every time. I honestly enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie. But now I can't be wearing like Viking stuff when I'm saying that. Of course, if I'm just wearing like a casual jacket, whatever. Obviously, there's no way to tell what team I'm a fan of. But just yell "Go Birds!" whenever you see an Eagles fan in public. It's it's just. Ooh, sorry about that. Passionate fan base. All right, let's see here. And by the way, if you guys are enjoying, please drop a like. We're at 76. Let's go and get it up to 100. And Sarah says the Bears should hire Josh McDaniels. Somebody asked if she was joking. She said not at all. I strongly disagree with that take. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think the Bears should hire Josh McDaniels, personally. Taylor, appreciate the super chat. Also kind of crazy how the AFC playoffs are basically set. It is. The AFC playoffs, I tweeted, there was a picture that was put out this week, and it was basically like 5 teams had like 95% plus chance, and then there was like, I want to say it was the Colts had like a 30% chance because the Texans could blow a couple games, and then everybody else was like 10% or less. So yeah, it's pretty much set. But let's go ahead and go to Seahawks Cardinals. Now this is an interesting game because this is in a lot of ways for the division title. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago. They beat them 16-6, and the Seahawks have been playing a lot better over the past couple of weeks, and specifically since their bye. They're 3-0 since their bye. They went into the bye at 4-5. Now they're 7-5. And the long-term plan for the Seahawks with Mike Macdonald was why I was always an advocate for the Mike Macdonald hire, and we're starting to see that over the past couple of weeks, and why I'm really buying in long-term. But the Seahawks have a pretty tough final 5 games. They have at Arizona, they have home against Green Bay, home against Minnesota, at Chicago, and at the LA Rams. That is pretty brutal. So when you look at the Cardinals' final 5 games, not to say that theirs is easy, but they have home against Seattle, home against New England, at Carolina, at the Rams, and home against the 49ers. And by the way, the Rams are still very much in the division race. So you have 2 6-6 teams, and of course the Seahawks at 7-5. I would argue this is a more of a can't lose game for Seattle. And I'm going to put a poll out for this one. I do want to just see where you guys stand on this. But a couple weeks ago, the Seahawks played the Cardinals really good. They held them to less than 50 yards rushing as a team, and I think that is the key to beating the Cardinals, because the Cardinals' whole goal is to physically wear you down and to physically, beat you down. We're going to play big boy football, and that was the reason they selected Illinois tight end Tip Ryman in the top 85 of last year's draft. But if Seattle can take away their run game again, which they did a couple weeks ago, and I would imagine they can do it again, I think they're going to win the game. And even last week, the Cardinals ran for 150 yards as a team. They only put up 22 points. So I'm going to go with Seattle. I think that the Seahawks right now are kind of the definition of a team heating up at the right time. Now, I don't think Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl, mainly because of the going into Philly, going into Detroit aspect. That is brutal for anybody. But I think the Seahawks are kind of on their way to winning the division title. So I want to see where you guys stand on this. And I'm going to put up the poll. Let's see. This is just straight up who is winning this game. Seahawks, Cardinals, and you guys can go ahead and vote away. And Arizona is actually favored, so this is another back-to-back dog we are taking. And there was a super chat from Daniel I wanted to get to. I love it when people say "Go Birds" to me in public. I live near Philly, so it happens all the time. You have to. Go Birds is. It's just like a rite of passage in Philly. You know, I love saying "Go Birds" to people. And I live in Maryland, so I see a decent amount of Eagles stuff. So, just a quick "Go Birds" and keep rolling on with your day. All right, let's see here. David, super chat, appreciate it. Dude, love your content. How about Kirby Joseph calling Tucker Kraft mac and cheese? Go Lions. So that was definitely creative, I'll say that. But here's what I would say to that. Appreciate the super chat, by the way, and appreciate the support. But what I would say is Tucker Kraft is emerging. Like when you talk about a player that you can see getting better every week, and you can see them making strides week after week, Tucker Kraft is that guy. And I will say this, next year, I will be drafting Tucker Kraft in a lot of fantasy leagues. I like Tucker Kraft a lot. I think Tucker Kraft is well on his way to becoming a good tight end. And I think the tight end position is in a really good state right now across the league. I think there's a lot of good tight ends. Of course, Brock Bowers to me is already a top 2 or 3 tight end in the NFL. And Tucker Kraft's another young tight end. I like him a lot. But I think the tight end position is in good shape. And Tucker Kraft, of course, plays into that. But if they play again, I mean, Tucker Kraft is not a guy I'd want to mess with. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. All right, let's see here. I want a spicy Philly cheesesteak now. Sounds pretty good to me, man. I mean, I'm an inner fatty at heart. I'm actually having pizza and wings later, a little Friday night, and I can't wait, to be honest with you. But let's see here. I think Cardinals will just barely pull it out. Cardinals in the red zone has been night and day since the bye. Great take, Jacob. Great take. Cardinals have lost a lot of momentum. Unfortunately, they have. I think James Conner bounces back. We'll see. Need the Seahawks to win. Need the Seahawks to win for the Vikings to clinch playoffs this week. The Vikings will clinch. They'll clinch eventually. I'm not too worried about that. All right, let's see here. Even though I'm a Lions fan, I have mad respect for the player Tucker Kraft is. I'm definitely drafting him next year. He's an animal. He is an animal. But wait, what did Durant say? You got me crying. What did Durant say? Never mind. Durant said something. What did he say? Cardinals too inconsistent. Give me the sea chickens. I would also agree with that. I would also agree with where you're coming from. All right. Let's see here. All right, we have Bills at Rams. This is a very interesting game. This is. I'm really looking forward to this one for a couple of reasons. The Bills are red hot, red hot, and the Rams are coming off a win last week where they started slow, and the Bills are favored by 4 points, which I think is a good line set by Vegas. I think sometimes lines are a little crazy. I don't really understand where they get them. But the Rams had a bounce back win last week. They won 37-20 over they lost 37-20 against the Eagles, and then they won 21-14 over the Saints. But the Rams are a team where they frustrate me because you will get a quarter or two at a time from the Rams where they look good. Like, they look like they can compete with anybody. And not to say that they would be Super Bowl champions, but they look like they can beat anybody. And I'm talking, they look like they can go into Detroit and win. They look like they could go into Buffalo and win for a quarter or two. But then you get the other quarter where they'll go 3 and out. They'll give up a 75-play drive, or 75-yard drive, not a 75-play drive, a 75-yard drive, and they'll get outscored 14-0 in a half at the snap of a finger. And that was honestly what happened last week to the Saints. They looked really good in the second half. They looked like a team that could beat anybody, but you can't do that against the Bills. And I know this phrase has been popularized by social media, but you cannot F around and find out against the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills right now are 10-2. They are a really, really well-run organization and a really well-run team. The Bills have won 7 in a row, and Buffalo has put up 30 or more points in 6 straight games. And I know Josh Allen, obviously, last year took a tremendous amount of criticism for throwing interceptions all the time. And he came out, I want to say, he had 4 interceptions on Monday night against the Jets in week 1. In a game, the Zach Wilson Jets ended up winning. Now, Aaron Rodgers started the game, of course, but Zach Wilson played most of that game. Josh Allen has 5 interceptions this year. He has responded to everybody. He is playing at an MVP level. And when you look at the thin secondary the Rams have, and when you look at how red hot the Bills are, I am going to go with Buffalo to win this game. I think this is a tremendous 4 o'clock game. And I will say, I like that, although this doesn't technically apply because the Bills are this is a scheduling thing that I like the NFL has done. I could go on like a 5-minute spiel about how the NFL schedule works, but basically interconference teams play more, although this doesn't apply because the Bills are playing the NFC West this year. They played the 49ers last week. They played the Rams this week. But I really like that we have like more chances for Bills-Lions, which actually is next week. So anyway, my point is, I like that we have more interconference games, and I think this is going to be a great game, but I am going to take Buffalo. And Buffalo actually won here. They opened the 2022 season in LA. They thumped them 31-10. I don't think it's going to be quite that bad this time, but I think it's going to be a good game. And I am going to go with the Bills here. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 34-24. I just don't think the Rams are going to be able to hang with the Bills for all 4 quarters. And there's not a lot of teams that can hang with the Bills for all 4 quarters. Although the Texans can, as they beat them 23-20. I'm actually kind of kidding about that because that was a really just weird game. But the Texans did beat them. But I am going to go with the Bills to win this one. I think it's going to be a good game. It's a good 4 o'clock game. And I'm looking forward to it. I am really looking forward to this game. And I think the Bills right now, depending on how they win this game, I mean, guys, wouldn't surprise me if they go to the Super Bowl this year in what was supposed to be a transition year / a rebuilding year. All right. And by the way, if you guys are enjoying, like I said, please drop a like. We're right near 100, so let's go ahead and get it up to 100. And appreciate everyone being in here. Hopefully everybody is having a great Friday and a great start to the weekend. So please drop a like if you guys are enjoying, and let's keep it rolling. All right, we have Chargers-Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 4. Oh boy, the Chiefs. The Chiefs. I know, I'm sure a lot of people have thoughts on this team right now, especially with how they beat the Raiders, especially with how they beat the Panthers, especially with how they beat the Broncos a couple weeks ago. I'm sure everybody has their thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs. They're favored by 4 points. They're playing a really good Chargers team. The Chargers won last week against the Falcons in a game I don't think they win last year if Brandon Staley is the head coach. But a win's a win. And like we always say, never apologize for a win, ever. When I look at these two teams, I think the Chiefs are a more talented team, and I think really everybody would agree with that. I mean, the Chiefs are, I know they have several injuries, but the Chargers this year, I was hoping for a 8-9, maybe a 9-8 year. Jim Harbaugh's impact on this organization from the top down has been incredible, and Jim Harbaugh is a great head coach. But going into Kansas City and winning is a very tall task, even despite how many players are down for Kansas City. And this is one that absolutely deserves a poll. And JG says the Chargers are very injured, and both teams are for that matter. But let's go ahead and create the poll here. Chiefs' new left tackle DJ Humphries will be in. Wondering if that will help settle Mahomes down and make him more comfy in the pocket. Great question, Dare Bear, and I think it does personally. But we are going to go ahead and toss the poll out here, just straight up. Who is winning? And here's the thing for me is, somebody else just pointed out, J.K. Dobbins is out. That's really tough to overcome. But I'm eager to see who you guys have winning. Our defense is ready, but offense is banged up. Let's see here. How will the Chiefs win this week? A safety. Good call there, Sarah. Eagles 135. Panthers 0. I don't think that's going to be the score. But Chargers upset the Chiefs. Barkley 300 yards rushing. 4 drops for QJ. I want QJ to do well, man. I really do. Chiefs 27-20 over the Chargers. I think I would disagree with that one. Just because that's really not a way the Chiefs win. The Chiefs like to win, like 20-21-20. They don't really like to win by a touchdown. Jokes aside. But I think I'm gonna have to go with the Chiefs, man. It's anytime you're on the road, your number one offensive weapon in J.K. Dobbins is down. It's tough to win on the road. Although this is a great Sunday night game. I am really, really looking forward to it. Let's see here. Take underdog spreads versus Chiefs. I like that idea. I do. I like that idea. Ladd needs to play. Oh, 100%. If Ladd McConkey doesn't play, then the choice is very obvious. Very, very obvious. But I would agree with that. Let's keep it going here. All right. Taylor, appreciate the super chat. Do you think any team currently not in the playoff picture rallies to make the playoffs? Let's take a look here. I don't think so. I don't think, because the playoffs are, like you said earlier, they're kind of set in the AFC. For the Bengals to get in, right? They would need to win out to go 9-8, and they would need the Chargers or Broncos, one of them, to go 1-4 down the stretch, and I don't think that's going to happen. So, no. The Dolphins, I don't trust to win 5 straight games, and then again, you would still need the Chargers or Broncos to have a losing record the rest of the way. And then in the NFC, again, I think it's kind of set unless the Commanders absolutely collapse, because I think the Vikings and Packers are going to be 2 of the 3 wild cards. So I would honestly say no. I would say no. I don't think there's going to be a team currently not in the playoff picture rallies to make it, because it's crazy to say, but we're honestly kind of set for the playoffs, almost. That could definitely backfire. I mean, if you want to include the Rams in that, because nobody's really talking about the Rams in the NFC West and they could win the division, maybe, but I think we're honestly kind of set. So we have just an incredible Monday night game here. We have Joe Burrow, Cooper Rush, Cincy favored by 5.5. This is a game, again. I love using that phrase. It just describes just a game late in the year where either there's injuries or just underwhelming play, and that describes both of these teams. The Bengals defense has obviously just been awful all year. They've allowed an average of 28.3 points per game. Falcons fans, don't take that decimal away. But they've allowed 30 or more points and 34 or more points in 4 of their past 5 games. The Bengals are 0-4 in those games when they've allowed 34 or more points. It's just not setting anybody up for success when you allow that many points, obviously. But they're playing Cooper Rush. I think they have a chance to actually, win this game and win this game kind of convincingly, or at least by 7+ points. And I just look at the Bengals and they frustrate me because they've let a lot of talent leave the building, and they shouldn't have. And they frustrate me from decisions they've made over the past couple of years. And where we are now is because of not wanting to pay good players / let's not pay good players because we know we're going to have to pay Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And then they'll figure it out because they're Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And that's where we are now with the Bengals. And that's mainly why they're 4-8. The thing is, I am going to go with the Bengals to win this game. And I know the Bengals have obviously had a long year, obviously. But I don't think, even despite how bad the defense is, that the Cowboys are going to be able to keep up with the Bengals. The Bengals have put up 27 or more points in all 4 of their last games, in their last 4 games, what I meant to say. And it's just been a frustrating year for Cincy. I think there's a chance that Joe Burrow leads the NFL in both passing yards and passing touchdowns this year. And he's having an MVP caliber year. Unfortunately, that's being wasted. For a sheer entertainment aspect in this game on Monday night, I think it will be pretty entertaining. I think it will be pretty high scoring. I think Jamar Chase will have over 100 yards and a touchdown. But it's going to be too little too late for the Bengals in a year where the Broncos have really outperformed expectations, and the Chargers for that matter too. And they're going to be a day late and $1 short when the postseason rolls around. And I don't think they're going to get to the postseason. Dallas, there's just not a lot to say about the Cowboys. They're 5-7. They've had a lot of injuries this year, and obviously once your starting quarterback goes down, your season is, unless you're a 2017 Eagles, your season is 99% of the time done. There's not a lot to say. Good win against the Giants last week. DeMarvin Overshown was awesome, and I was really happy for him. There's not a lot to say about the Cowboys in this game, though. There's really not. But I think Cincinnati's going to win this game. All right. Oh, man, we battled through that one. We battled through the stream. It was a flu game today. Oh, baby. All right. Brian asks, appreciate the super chat, by the way. Favorite player of all time, mine is Palomalu. Mine would probably be... It's Harrison Smith. I was debating Harrison Smith or Justin Jefferson. It's Harry's my guy. He was drafted when I was a freshman in high school. Or when I was in 8th grade, his rookie year was when I was a freshman in high school, and he's been a beast for the last 12 years. First ballot Hall of Famer. Harrison had 2 pick sixes his rookie year, and he's just been a joy to watch, man. I love Harrison, and I mean, there's probably going to be a point where Justin Jefferson takes over as the number 1 player all time, but Harrison is just an awesome, awesome player. I'm actually curious, by the way. Comment your guys' favorite players all time. All time. I'm really curious on that. Might be a little late here, but as a Vikings fan, I'm a little worried. The only path to a playoff win is with the 1 seed, as they have to play the Lions week 18. I think, see, here's the thing with the Vikings is right now is allow me to put my homer cap on. The Lions winning last night created some room with the 5 seed. So I think the Vikings can get the 5 seed, and then I think they can beat Tampa or Atlanta in the wildcard round. After that would be tough because they'd have to go to Detroit with the season on the line in the divisional round. But I think the Vikings can win a playoff game. Charles Tillman, good call on Peanut Tillman. Peanut was an animal growing up. Like, watching him growing up, he was an animal. Ray Lewis, another beast. Let's see here. Fridge and Stafford. I was not expecting the Fridge. Josh Allen, it was Charles Woodson, Marshawn Lynch. I think the Eagles are the Lions' biggest threats. The Vikings are they're slept. I would agree with that, though. I would agree with that with the Eagles part. But the Vikings they are being very, very slept on. Dawkins, Marshawn, Larry Fitzgerald. One of the craziest stats you will ever see is Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles as a receiver than he does total drops. That is insane. Like, that is unreal. DeBears fan, what moment made you fall in love with the game? I honestly was not expecting that. Let me think about this. So I started watching, my first ever NFL game was the Randy Moss Moon game in 04. And by the way, Randy Moss is going through something right now. Thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family during a difficult time. Unfortunately, I don't remember the Randy Moss Moon incident itself. So I remember watching the 05 season. The thing is, like, the 05 and the 06 season for me, they're kind of like run together. Because I was like 8 years old. They're 7 and 8 years old, so they kind of run together. So I would say the 2007 season, which would have been Adrian Peterson's rookie year, and probably pick a point in that season. The 2007 season, watching Adrian Peterson as a rookie, as a Vikings fan, was his whole career was fun to watch, but watching him as a rookie in 2007 and the 296 yards, a record that still stands today, although Saquon Barkley might break that record, but watching that, it would probably be somewhere in Adrian Peterson's rookie season, to be honest. It was just incredible. I started watching football, and Fridge was one of the first players I followed as a kid. Dude, I mean, like, I wish they would bring, like, they needed to bring back, like a defensive tackle like that just gets the ball. Like, Pat Ricard needs to get the ball more on the goal line for the Ravens. Now, I know it's a little different when you have Derrick Henry, and that's going to naturally change things because you have that back, and you don't need to hand the ball to a fullback. But I do like the idea. All right. I was 8 in 2006. Yes, I was. I guess it makes me Unk status. I don't know. That makes me uncomfortable. Whenever people call me Unk at 26 years old, that's like, ooh, I feel like 25, 26 is the first time in your life when you can really feel like old. Because you can, like, I have memories of stuff from like 19, 20 years ago, and it's like, oof. But, all right, would I do a power rankings video? Maybe in the off season. It's just, there is too much during the season that takes place week to week. And I'll be honest, if I were doing a power rankings video, I'd want to make it, like, I'll just say conservatively 32 minutes, because I'd want at least a minute on each team. And the editing for that would take far too long for me to be able to make the video what I would want it to be. So maybe in the off season, but not during the season. At least not right now. He is Pokemon old. Shout out Pokemon Gens 1 and 2. Shout out Gens 1 and 2. Pokemon Crystal, the GOAT game. If you tell me, like, I stopped after Gen 4, which is like Pearl, Platinum, and Diamond. So any game after that, any Pokemon named after that, no idea about any of them. But Gens 1 and 2 Pokemon, the GOAT. And especially Pokemon Crystal, by the way. Shout out my guy, Typhlosion. Animal. He's a beast. Let's see here. All right, I think we need to see with me with a beard. I can't grow a beard. Like, I can't grow a beard at all. Funny enough, by the way. my manager asked me one time, he was joking when he said this. He asked if I wanted to have a sponsor with like shaving cream on it, and I just said I don't think I'm your guy for that. I don't think I can actually promote that. But let's see here. I'd be calling my brother Unk. No, it definitely gets under people's skin calling people Unk. I stopped at Fire Red. I played Pokemon Violet. I don't know what gen that is. I don't know what gen that is. Crystal was Gen 2. Crystal was definitely Gen 2. It was like released after Gold and Silver, but it wasn't Gen 3. All right, let's see here. Do I live in Minnesota? I do not. I live in Maryland. I will defend Maryland as a top 5 state. I will. It's I mean, people don't like call it America in miniature like around here. Like I don't just go down the street and I say like to a neighbor like, "Oh, hey, what's up? You know, how is it to live in the American in miniature?" But Maryland has been referred to as America in miniature because we have the ocean, and then we have like the big city life, and then we have the mountains. So you have everything in the state. And then there's like flat land down on the eastern shore. Like I said, I will defend. I love Maryland. Great state. Definitely recommend visiting, by the way. All right, let's see here. Who is the best rookie wide receiver in this draft so far? Not stats, since it can rely a lot on the team situation, but more so eye test and talent. Good question. I would say it's probably one of the LSU receivers. I'd probably say Thomas right now. I mean, the thing is it's tough specifically with the eye test. I would say Brian Thomas right now over Neighbors. Brian Thomas right now, but he's a beast. I love BTJ. Come visit Minnesota. It's a top 10 state. I've visited a couple times. I can't with work. I'd love to be able to go to a Vikings game, but with the recaps and everything, and then with the video getting out on Tuesday at noon, haven't been able to go to a game in a couple years. But that's definitely by personal choice. But no, I will go back out to Minnesota at some point for sure. I once got Maryland Crabs. That's what's up. That is what's up. And shout out Tanner. Shout out Jesse if you're watching. But no, Maryland Crabs, the GOAT. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Shrey asked this earlier. Why do you think in 2017 the Falcons gave the Eagles a tougher game in the divisional than Minnesota did in the conference championship? A couple reasons. Definitely an emotional carryover from the Minneapolis Miracle. From the divisional to the NFC Championship game. But what also happened to the Vikings in that game was they got up 7-0. Excuse me. They jumped out to a 7-0 lead, and then Case threw a pick six. The Vikings were driving. I think the Eagles scored a touchdown, so it was 14-7. The Vikings were driving. They had the ball at the 20-yard line, the Eagles' 20-yard line, with like 2 minutes left in the first half. They fumbled. I think the Eagles may have scored a field goal to make it 17-7. So that's a 10-point swing right there. I mean, if it's 14-14 versus 17-7, that's a 10-point swing. And then the Eagles came out, got the ball first and second half, 24-7. It snowballed. The fumble. I mean, the pick six obviously hurt, but the fumble it snowballed after that. It snowballed big time after that. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. I either went to school with your family in Annapolis or you were adopted and don't know your real family. Because you got some doppelgangers. That's okay. Not adopted, and I also don't live in Annapolis, but that's pretty cool though. That is pretty cool. But no, I actually live in Western Maryland. All right. Let's see here. Steven, that does not count. That does not count. Do I think Brock Bowers should win Offensive Rookie of the Year? I do, but it's not gonna go that way. It's gonna be a quarterback award. If you go by actual, like, Rookie of the Year, right? Brock Bowers is undoubtedly a top 2 or 3 player at his position. I would argue that he's the best player at his position now, already, at 21 years old. He's insane, right? He's a great player. For as good as Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix have been, they're not even close to the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks the way Brock Bowers is at tight end. So I would argue that Brock Bowers should be the Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, he's not going to. All right. Let's see here. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I would say Jared Verse. But I understand the argument for Quinyon Mitchell. I completely do. But I do think Verse will win the award. But if you want to go Quinyon, I completely understand. But that is going to wrap up today's stream. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, please like, please subscribe. If you're not already, we hit 171 recently. We are closing in on 175. Cannot thank you guys enough for the support. New video will be out tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Be there. And like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed. And appreciate everyone. Appreciate the new members as well. And I will see you guys next time. Until then, be safe and have a great day.